It says this: James Gunn explains why the DCU won't focus on the origin stories for Batman and Superman. He said this: everybody knows them already. So, Jerry, why is James Gunn not doing the origin? If you were explaining to someone that doesn't understand origin films.
So we've seen the origins of Superman and Batman play out so many times, and you know, making a movie about a story that everyone's seen multiple times is redundant, and it would reduce the positive impact that this movie has the potential to have. Why wouldn't we want to see an entirely new story when we're in a position to do so? And it's also similar to, I forget who said this about the Joker, but it was someone in the industry, and they were just like, the thing about doing the Joker is he's been done so many times that to do it, you have to do something in a way where it's something that fans haven't seen. And the origin story, there's only so much you could do, because the Joker, you could at least tell different stories with. He's a character, but the origin story is the story. You don't get to really change that. And if you want a Superman or a Batman origin story, there are plenty of great origin stories for you to read, watch, probably even play in the video games. We've seen these origin stories, and we get to see an entirely new movie. And I think that is better. Like, I'd rather see a more advanced Batman or a more advanced Superman. The origin stories, it's just, I now remember what I was going to say is, so I remember when I was like a really little kid, I was obsessed with superheroes. And then I remember thinking like, okay, I kind of have to like grow up, but I still really love superheroes. And then I was, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and the Spider-Man came out, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And I watched the show when I was a little kid, but like I didn't really pay attention to everything. I just liked Spider-Man. I liked the fighting and the powers. Like, that was cool enough for me. But I never knew why or how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. But I also never really thought about it because I was too young to. And when Spider-Man came out, and I was like, oh, a radioactive spider bit him, and that's how he got the powers. Like, it clicked for me. I was like, oh, this is much cooler now. And I could have a deeper appreciation for it as a teenager than I did as a child. And, that was like the beginning of origin story superhero movies. And because of Spider-Man, Sam Raimi, there were a ton of origin superhero movies that had came out throughout the 2000s. That was like the trend. That was how superhero movies became successful. There was Spider-Man, there was Batman Begins, there was Iron Man, there was the X-Men. You can go on and on. The origin stories also aren't trending right now. And I think that they're not trending is because the big superheroes, their origins have already been told. And if they haven't, I'm sure they're going to touch on it on a show like The Lanterns, where not everyone is so familiar with the origin of the Lanterns. I don't think they're going to, spend so much time on it because they don't have to. But for Batman and Superman, like, everyone knows their origin story. And if you're new to this and you don't, there are plenty of, entries where you could experience their origin story. And I recommend you do so if that's what, if that's something you want, because there are plenty of awesome origin stories, especially for Batman and Superman. And, I just think like it's a much better move to tell the story where we get a Batman and a Superman who are a little more polished and sharper in their skills, where we get a more advanced version of them in the story to tell a better story where they're like really in it and not just new to it. The other thing here is, their origins, like, they are cool stories, but they've been told multiple times. And, for like I said, for characters like the Lanterns and the ones we don't really know, I'm sure they'll touch on. But Batman and Superman, and also, they did say for the DCU that a lot of these characters have history to them as the hero where we didn't necessarily experience. So we're going to be coming into the DCU where, Batman, Superman, and these other characters are already somewhat experienced and they have stories in their career that we're coming in after those stories have taken place. And I do think that those stories are going to be, referenced in a number of different ways. Some of them might be in a flashback. Some of them might be on an old newspaper that, comes in our frame of vision. And some of them might be referenced in ways that we never imagined, because I'm just the guy with a podcast. I'm not James Gunn. I'm not a director. I'm not that super creative guy. Those are the ways that I could imagine, but I'm sure guys like that have thought up way more intricate examples on how to, reference stories that we are coming in after they've taken place.
100%, bro. I think DC in general characters are in a very interesting place because most of us grew up watching the shows. Like most of us grew up watching Superman, Justice League, Batman. Like everybody knows, like even people that aren't into superheroes, they know the Batman origin story. The same way everybody knows the Spider-Man like origin, even if they're not a Marvel fan.
Right.
Everybody went to see everybody like. There's not one person I know that is our age that didn't see Tobey Maguire's freaking Spider-Man. Everybody has, And when it comes to characters like Superman and Batman, like there's no reason to, tell an origin story by any means necessary. And and we even got modern ones. We got Dark Knight, which Batman Begins is the best origin story of all time. And then we got freaking Man of Steel, and but then we go to Marvel, right? Even with Black Panther, we technically didn't see the origin of how he got it. I mean, it was a continuation of after Civil War, And I think that Marvel has done a great job with skipping the origin film and kind of introducing us to like the midway point to when the character is in their prime. And to be honest, I think introducing characters in their prime is the best way to introduce characters, because as you said, bro, a lot of people don't care about the origin. Like a lot of people don't, like, because just being real, like who's a character whose origin we
Spider-Man Homecoming is a great example.
100%. We go right into what, year 2 Spider-Man, year 3.
Yeah, he still had that like homemade suit, and was trying to figure it out. But we didn't see him get bit by a spider. We saw him. It was referenced in a funny way because Ned asked him. He was like, "A spider bit me." He's like, "Could the spider bite me?"
Yeah,
like,
right.
Dead.
Yeah, bro. And look. Something else that Marvel also did that was very interesting, which I think James Gunn is probably also going to do, because he's done it in his films, as we saw in Guardians, is that they put people's origin stories in other people's films. So like like Iron Man 2, Rhodey, they didn't do a separate War Machine movie. No, they just put his origin in Iron Man,
Yeah.
And we can see something where, I think that in Superman we might get a bit of Supergirl's origin story in there, because they don't want to do a whole film about her origin. So it's very smart.
Daredevil Netflix, I don't think they did the origin. I could be wrong on that, but there are plenty of examples.
They did like flashbacks, I think.
Yeah. So if you're upset that it's not an origin story and you're genuinely upset about that, you have the MCU, which is, there are plenty of examples where they didn't do the origin story, but they were still very successful without it. And if you want a Batman origin story, like Stevie said, Batman Begins is the greatest origin story movie. It is incredible. And the thing that I love so much about the Dark Knight trilogy is that but like if you want to understand Batman, you can watch that trilogy and have a full understanding of who Batman is and his mythology and his code on life. Like that, and I don't know if there is a better example in cinema for any character, for you to be able to watch their movie or trilogy and have that deep of an understanding of who the character is.
Yeah, the only other one is probably Captain America.
That's a great call. Captain America, 100%. And it's crazy because a lot of people say both of those trilogies are the best superhero trilogies of all time.
I think Captain America's trilogy is goated. I do.
Yeah.
I do. He might have the now he does have the luxury of having the Avengers, but it's still, I mean, but still though, like, I mean, Civil War is one of the best movies about code and about standing for what's right. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And even Winter Soldier, I mean, the Winter Soldier is the intro into Avengers Age of Ultron. Like, I mean, it's a lot of people don't talk about that enough.